Let's see here. And I need to make sure that they are all co-hosts. Hi, Jill, can you?
Okay, this is Jill. I can see all of you guys. My video is not coming up. Can you guys see me on there?
No. We see your name, but we can't see you. We can hear you.
I can't see Michelle either. All I see is her name.
Oh, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Please go out and come back in again. Caitlin, you're listed as a panelist, but not a co-host.
Do I need to do anything different?
No, I've texted Jenny to see if we can change you to a co-host.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Who are we missing?
The majority.
Well, Nolan, can you hear us okay? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good.
Is my audio okay now? This is Jill.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good, Jill.
You hear me?
We can hear you.
There's Kurt.
Hello, Kurt. I hear you. See you.
Eric.
Yeah, I'm Nolan Sunderman on this.
This could be really bad.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
Kurt, you and I are both Caitlin, though.
All right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's fine. I'll take it.
There's Matt.
He's better looking than I am, dare I say.
Oh, Matt Zimmerman.
Hola, buenos días.
Very good, thank you.
Is Lindsay on?
I do not see Lindsay, Tammy, or Mike.
I just called Mike. He didn't answer. Call Lindsay, then I'll call Tammy. Hey, are you able to get on?
There's some people that are on a phone, and I don't know if these are panelists or attendees.
So from my screen, it shows there's 5 attendees on the phone and 10 panelists.
Right. Are any of those phone numbers, are there any of those people on the phone that are council members?
I don't know. It doesn't show me the full number. It just shows me the area code and the last 3 numbers of the phone number.
Would anybody recognize those numbers as council members?
I don't see the phone numbers.
If you hit attendees on the right, but it just has their area code and then the last 3 numbers of their phone number. So an 816 number with 453 at the end, a 913 number with 094 at the end, a 913 number with 122 at the end, and a 913 number with 600 at the end.
Mike Kimling's got a 816, but his is 8535404.
How about 913s? These could be just citizens, and that's fine, but if they're council members, I want to allow them to talk.
I don't see those phone numbers on when I look up at the screen for participants.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Okay. Nolan, do we want to wait a little bit longer for other council?
I'm reaching out to Tammy right now. Lindsay's trying to get in, and Mike didn't answer.
I texted Mike as well. See if he's going to get on.
All right, I'll be right back then.
Okay.
I'm not, none of those numbers are coming up on,
None of those come up as numbers you know?
I'm not sure.
How about Tanya?
Tanya just popped up there.
Okay. So. Hi, Tanya. Good. Okay.
Did not get a response from Tammy either. So.
Okay. When we're ready, Mayor, should we go ahead and start, Nolan?
Yeah, I don't have is the mayor on? Yep.
And then
Yes.
I see
Okay.
what's on too now.
Yeah.
Mayor, when you're ready to start, let me know and I'll start recording.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, Mayor, why don't you kick us off, and then I'll turn it to Nolan, and we'll get started.
Well, since I'm not fully in the loop of what I'm kicking off here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nolan.
Okay.
Thank you guys for meeting via Zoom as we try to kind of put some of the finishing touches on the strategic vision. It's kind of coming after our February retreat and trying to get everybody together. We kind of originally had something scheduled for in-person, obviously, then had to cancel that and kind of kicked around, waiting and how long to wait, and thought, well, this is the Zoom thing could work. I know Mike and SGR are fully launching Zoom with a lot of their things as well, so they're getting more comfortable with it too, and obviously to do a council meeting. So appreciate you guys joining via Zoom under the circumstances, and just appreciate all the work that you all have put on have put into this, as well as the steering committee. And we'll have a steering committee meeting and also do some an additional public input meeting that Mike is coordinating, so we're getting that information out. And then this will come back to you for a final review and an actual vote and discussion on it. So still a few more steps, but this is just kind of the piggyback and kind of the wrap up kind of what we did in February. And so I'll turn it over to Mike, and again, appreciate the work and getting this set up for us.
Yeah, thanks, Nolan, and thanks everybody for patience, because it is a new medium for us. We've been doing quite a few Zoom webinars and not as many Zoom meetings like this where we're trying to hear from everyone. So if I make a mistake, which is likely, just be patient with me, and I appreciate that. And if you start trying to talk and you're muted, you may see me hold up this sign that says you are muted, and so just unmute yourself, and we'll try to do the best we can. I'm going to share my screen because I have put together the milestones or the priorities and the milestones into a PowerPoint. I know Caitlin sent out to you the report that we sent, and I'm not going to go over all of that in terms of reputational drivers and operational drivers and those things. You can ask me about them if you want to. We can talk about them. But really, the crux of it all is the priorities and then the milestones under those to just really make sure that we're still in alignment, and that if there's some things you say, you know, after thinking about this a little bit now, a couple of months, I think this is something we need to look at differently. The last thing we want is for anyone to feel like, you know, we didn't honor the process and give everybody input. So bear with me. I'm going to do a screen share here, and that will allow me to bring up this. And I can do it this way. So this is the next slide I want you to see. You're very familiar with this. I know you've seen it again and again, but just to review where we're at, we've had, of course, lots of community input. We've had staff input. And then we had the retreat where you spent a lot of time envisioning. And we're now somewhere between here and here and here. So where before staff gets too far down the road in creating a strategic plan that enables you to fulfill that vision, we want to make sure that we're all in agreement with, yeah, this is the vision. Now, what's going to come back, and we're already seeing this with several cities we're working with because of the pandemic, is, you know, the budget issue. So you may find as staff plans some of the budget restraints that you may have now because of the pandemic. I don't know. It's possible you say, well, yes, but we're going to have to go at a different pace, or yes, but we're going to have to make it a smaller model, or yes, we're going to have to do an iteration of it. So lots of changes. And again, I would say that's not bad governance. That's good governance, because creating alignment takes a lot of conversations, and that's okay. It's a little more cumbersome when you're having to shelter in place, but we're all trying to make it happen and go well. So that being said, let's look at these, priorities. Hope you can see these okay. Number one, create a safe, sustainable, inclusive, interactive community. And here we go. That was pillar number one. Then we're going to go back and look at the various milestones under each pillar. That's number one. The second, creatively meet the diverse housing needs of a growing city. Number three, provide exceptional city services and infrastructure. Number four, be the leader in maximizing and integrating natural resources. Be the leader in maximizing and integrating personal resources. And then last one, create an environment where businesses thrive. So I want to go to some questions, and I'm going to put this slide back up. But here's the questions that I want us to think about, just with the pillars for now. What would you modify? And then, of course, we'll think about, well, how would you modify it? What would you eliminate if you look at one and say, I don't think that should be a pillar anymore? That's okay. And then, what would you add? If you feel like you can make a strong argument that we need a different pillar, an additional pillar, those are really the questions I'd sort of like to have our discussion on. So Those are questions. What would you modify? What would you eliminate? What would you add? And with that kind of the background, let me go back to these and see if anybody wants to make comment on changes, modifications, etc.
I feel like it would be easier to do if we saw the sub-points under each.
Okay, well, we're going to come to those in just a second, so that's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Anybody else want to comment on it?
This is Matt. I'm looking at those 5 pillars and sort of in my mind recollecting the effort that went into that narrative back in January. From my personal perspective, I think that collectively we all put a lot of thought into the wordsmithing that went into this. And as I look at these, I don't see anything in there that I would want to modify, strike or add to. I'm content with what we came up with at this point. My 2 cents worth.
Okay, thanks. Any other thoughts?
This is Jill. I would piggyback off of both what Kurt and Matt said. I do think we put a lot of time into these, and I feel comfortable right now, but I do think as we go through them and kind of look at the subpoints, that there may be small tweaks that we may see come up as we dive into each one.
Mm-hmm. Well, my only thought, just in looking at this, is, and I don't think it is, but I almost feel like I like the 5 pillars, but I don't know that they're in the order that I would put them in, but I don't know if it matters. But I kind of feel like when we send that out, maybe it should be ranked, sort of. If it's for public consumption. So that's my only thought.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I would say this, they are in no order, no logical order other than just how we did them on the sheet, and so we can certainly either rank them or alphabetize them by the first word in there if you want, and, before it goes out to the public, it will certainly go to Julie to have her work on it. So, Nolan, I see your hand up.
Well, it's actually Eric.
Oh, Eric. What a name.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
I'm Eric Nolan. I still have a little bit of issue with the 4th pillar, down there being the leader in maximizing, integrating natural resources. And I'm not really sure what that is. Maybe when we get all the other bullets up here, it'll make more sense. But at this point, we're a city, and I'm not sure how we're maximizing natural resources.
Yeah, I think it'll make more sense when you look at the bullet points, and you still may say, no, but let's look at them with it, because I think it...
Yeah, because when you were reading it to us, you said twice, you said personnel resources. It was interesting you said that twice, and I think, well, that makes more sense to me.
I think I was still thinking about the one before, which is city services and infrastructure, but, okay.
This is Lindsay, I don't see my name over here, so I'm not sure how to raise my hands. I'm showing up as Caitlin. I just wanted to say that I feel like this is a really balanced, I feel like the 5 pillars feel really balanced, and what I see in here is no matter, it feels like there's something for everyone, like everyone in Shawnee, whether you've been in the community for 50 years and remember how it was back in the day, or you've just moved here, it feels like it has something for everyone. I'm actually not too excited about the idea of ranking, because then, I don't know, if I'm somebody and my number 1 is city services and it's ranked 5th, I guess I'm not sure the reason for ranking. Pillars, all 5 pillars hold up our city, hold up our community. Let's let them all stand as priorities, is my thought.
I would say most of the cities we work with do not rank them. Most of the cities do end up alphabetizing them by the first word, just because they want to communicate exactly that we need all 5, or how many ever, usually it's 5, it could be more, to uphold the vision, and if you lose one of those, the vision collapses. So, but that's a decision for each council.
I do have one comment. This is Lisa. One of the things that we do at my hospital is we have very similar pillars. We've adopted a graphic that is very literal in terms of pillars. It almost looks like the Parthenon, where there are 5 vertical poles, essentially, and then at the bottom of them, it would be each one of your pillars by name. And that is what we have done to show that each of these pillars contribute in their own way to our ultimate vision. And it's a really easy way to communicate that. So instead of communicating it vertically like we see here, it's basically a horizontal communication.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. A very good point. No problem. And again, I would say this is not yet ready for public consumption, because your staff will want to do that. You'll have a great communication staff. Okay, well let's move on and let's look at each pillar with the milestones, and same questions. Do we need to modify? Do we need to eliminate? Do we need to add? And here is the first one. So create a safe, sustainable, inclusive, and interactive community. And there were 6 milestones. And milestones, if you, just for the sake of reminding you, we always define milestones as things that tell us we're moving in the right direction. This is really what we wanted, and at the right speed, so that you're working on the right things as you can go along. So they don't have real tight timetables to them, because I really think that becomes more a part of staff's responsibility in creating a work plan, and is controlled a lot by your budget, how fast you can move. These are telling us this is where we want to go. I'll go through them. Again, these are in the only order these are in the order that your team created them. So again, not ranked and not linear either. Provide state-of-the-art public safety. Create a walkable and bikeable communities to protect health and promote connectedness. Develop public transit. Make downtown an interactive destination. Plan with sustainability and conservation in mind. And offer increased opportunities for recreational art, history, and cultural experiences.
Can I just ask for someone to maybe expand upon develop public transit a little bit more? Is that a goal, or just that'll happen naturally as we continue to develop? Do we continue to develop the transit? Or is that a problem right now? I don't know, Nolan or somebody. I don't remember that being part of it.
Lisa?
Yeah. We've had a lot of different conversations about public transit, and one of the things that is actually fairly new from even when we had our meeting is that the county is looking at ways to cut down on public transit. We know that in the city of Shawnee, especially in western Shawnee, we have a really hard time getting workers to entry-level positions. So we can't just let public transit kind of drop off and let it go away. Now, we have programs in place right now with our citywide program, and I'm not necessarily in favor of doing too much beyond that with our first iteration of this, but it is something that we need to think about, because we can't attract businesses if we can't get workers here.
Okay, thank you.
This is Eric. I have a comment. Mine's focused on the same subject, which is develop public transit. And I've actually got a problem with it even being in here. I think we are doing things in the way of public transit now, like as Lisa mentioned, where people can get a ride and they can go for $2 or whatever to a location, a hospital or a grocery store or whatever. We have that, the rideshare program. But if we put this in as a pillar item, then that would lead me, if I'm a person out there in the public, that would lead me to believe that we plan on doing something in this area. And that the city officials are going to develop some sort of public transit for them. And I don't think that's something that's even feasible with the density issues we have here. We don't have the high enough density to really provide for public transit unless we're part of a much bigger operation like Johnson County Transportation Authority type of deal, or whether we're in some kind of piggyback program with the city of Kansas City or something like that. So I kind of worry about having it in here because that creates expectations that that's something that we're going to do.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I asked the question because I'm new, so I was like, I don't know if there's an issue or something we're doing. But I think it's a valid point.
This is Matt. A recollection of how that got in there. And I'm throwing this out there because it's a memory tickler. At the point in time that all this was going on, I think that Johnson County was reworking some of the routing of their bus routes at that point in time, and just trying to be more efficient in serving the public, the greater public. And I think we wanted to play a part in that decision processing. So whether or not we articulated that the city is going to take it on, or that we are going to be an influencer in how JOCO develops that routing, I think it's important for Shawnee that we have a stake in that at some level, whether that's through Mark or just working directly with JOCO or whatever that looks like. We need to make sure that we have some influence in how those routing structures are put into place. That's my recollection of how that got in here. And I think within the context of that, we do need to keep that front and center somewhere.
This is Jill. I agree that the word develop, I don't think is maybe the best word there, because it's not like we're intending to develop our own system of public transit in Shawnee, but we want to be a part of, a regional effort there. So I do agree that the word develop probably isn't maybe the best one there. And then on the last bullet point in this one, I think we maybe meant to put a comment after recreational for recreational experience, art experience, not recreational art.
I think so too, Jill. Yeah, I'll make that change.
So what if we said support public transit rather than develop?
That works better for me. My thoughts were the exact same as Jill's. I was kind of hanging up on the word develop.
Okay, now that's where I'm coming from as well. That word develop implies that we're going to do something in that regard as a city. And that's really untenable for us. That the cost would be absolutely prohibitive if we're hoping to achieve any of these other pillars. So, I think to send that signal that we're really going to do some development of a public transit, the wrong message, to say that we would collaborate with metro-wide jurisdictions to provide the best public transit possible, or something along those lines. It implies that we are going to be partners. We're willing to collaborate. We'll go out and seek out, improvements of public transportation, but we're not able to do that by ourselves.
Yeah, support and collaborate, I think.
This is Nolan. Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I agree with the develop word. I mean, maybe that's too strong, and people think it's City of Shawnee Transit. But on the flip side, I kind of look at the word support, and I feel like if this is kind of a future milestone and something we're trying to build towards to the future, could we look at something like expand public transit opportunities? Just something that gives us kind of a little bit more of a future goal than just saying support to me, and I don't mean to wordsmith, but just in light of as we kind of look at these words and what they mean, is, what is that future goal? What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And it might be 10 years out, but,
No, I think we've been trying to encourage.
We've had conversations with Uber within the last few months on potential partnerships. We've had conversations about, transportation kind of development, benefit districts and things. So I would think, I realize where develop may kind of put that sense like it's the city of Shawnee would be doing it, but I guess I'd kind of push back just a little bit to think about whether that's expand, partner, something like that, just a little bit more of a futuristic kind of dollar word. So,
Nolan and everyone, I have the wrong name on here, so sorry if I just jumped in. I really want to make sure that we're keeping in mind everyone in Shawnee, and in Ward 4 we have a significant portion of people living in apartment complexes that do rely on public transportation. So for me, it's really important for the, around the 75th and Quivira area that those folks can get to jobs. If we're looking at development in downtown, I want to make sure people are able to get there. Similar to what Lisa brought up, I don't know if it would be helpful, but we could potentially move the public transportation portion to the business part. I mean, as we're attracting businesses, we want to make sure they can get workers there. So those people rely on it in that part of my ward. So I just think we got to keep it in here, whether we use the word develop or another word.
And this is Caitlin. I want to elaborate a little bit on, this is actually Caitlin, not Lindsay, Caitlin. I'll elaborate on what Nolan and Lindsay were just talking about. And while obviously transit is important when it comes to the bus route system, there are other opportunities for transit. Our city ride system, which utilizes taxi service for elderly and disabled, and then Nolan was talking about potential partnerships with Uber. But I don't want to pigeonhole us into thinking that the word transit specifically just means bus service, because it could potentially mean more than that.
Yeah, the icon there kind of suggests that, and it's not meant to be, but that's a good point. So maybe we'll try this to change this to say something like, I think I would just collaborate with metro-wide jurisdictions to provide the best public transit possible for the future.
Yes, I like that, or Nolan's expand, because to develop means to create. We're not creating something new from scratch. So I like, the collaboration, and what I keep hearing being said is collaborate, partner. So in that sense, you are expanding the public transit if you are building relationships with these other existing ones, whether they're new or current, but we're not developing, we're not creating something from scratch.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that. Our next meeting, just FYI, is next Tuesday, I think it is, and it'll be with the steering committee, and I will have made those changes by then, and we'll send it back out, and we'll change this up a little bit. So we'll certainly make those, both the comma here and change the wording there. Okay? Anything else on that one before I move this on? All right. Let's take the next one. Again, in no order other than these were the ways they were given to us. The pillar is creatively meet the diverse housing needs of a growing city. The milestones provide low to no maintenance housing for seniors, provide affordable, attainable starter homes for young families, be innovative in mixed-use developments, create density by infill, and integrate multifamily housing with existing development. So thoughts or comments on those?
Can you expand on density by infill? Again, probably because I'm new, I think some of these words I'm not as familiar with.
This is Nolan. So the infill developments would be more of maybe there's a parcel of property maybe closer to the downtown area, so it's not just density and kind of what we would call like greenfield development, like what you would see kind of maybe west of K7 on the western portion of the community. But infill development is like where you kind of go back and look at, hey, there's, 2 acres there, 4 acres there, similar to like the Kenneth Smith Estates project. Now, that's not necessarily a really dense project that's just single family, but we're looking at some of those parcels downtown, kind of off Neiman. Like a good example would be Kevin Tubasing's project. So it's kind of an infill project, and then it's a denser, I think there was 3 or 4 homes, and then you're going to have 65, 70 units. So, as an example.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Other questions?
Yeah, I got a question. This is Eric Sunderman. I'm having a problem with the same thing, creating density by infill, because while we do some of that, I mean, putting it down as an objective or a priority is kind of bothering me, because that's something that's very strongly opposed by most of our citizens. Go out and jamming apartment complexes in the neighborhoods. And in fact, that's been a recurring big issue in the city with our public. So, I don't know. I'm not real crazy about having it in here as an objective. I mean, it's something we'll do. But to highlight it and say that's where we want to go, I'm having heartburn with it.
Hey, Eric, I got to ask a question. I understand your point. Do you think, from the perspective of your constituents, that it's more a problem with using the word density versus, as I read this, it means more to me taking vacant space and making it useful, much in the terms that Nolan was mentioning the Kenneth Smith properties, by example.
I think I agree with you on the word density is a big problem. Thinking they're going to have somebody, they've been living here for 40 years, next thing you know, because there's a couple houses that were removed, they're going to jam 70 people into apartments right next to their house. That bothers people a lot.
So we just say promote infill development?
Yeah, I'd be a lot happier with that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I can see where you're coming. Sorry, this is Nolan. I can see the actual Nolan Sunderman. I can see where you're coming from, because, and I know, Eric, not to talk specifics, but there was a parcel of property I think that you were got connected with and had brought to us, and it could be like kind of more of a cottage style or kind of a villa duplex. It wouldn't necessarily have to be kind of a large apartment project. And so kind of agreeing with what Caitlin said, just, kind of more housing opportunities by looking at infill development.
Yeah. Right, and I'm good with that, because, we've come out with the cottage concept. We've done a number of things. In fact, we're even okay with certain projects with infill, such as Wonderscope, what we're looking to propose there. I mean, there's opportunities. But to state it like this, I think is going to send, it makes a lot of people fearful. It looks like we're just going to, every time we can find a little spot of ground out there, we're going to jam an apartment building in there. I don't want to give that impression at all.
Can we say something along the lines of revitalize needed areas through smart infill projects or something like that? I think people do support the idea of revitalizing areas that, have been run down a little bit. Much more than they love the idea of, let's find ways to increase density right next to my house.
I like that.
So how about if it read like this: revitalize needed areas by infill development?
I like that.
Yep.
Eric, is that good by you?
I'm still getting a little stuck on that one, but it's better.
You're avoiding the density word.
Yeah, no density. Revitalize needed areas by infill development.
I think that sounds great.
Okay.
Second those words.
This is Jill. I would just throw out there that the pillar that we're sort of under is housing needs. So I don't know if we need to be specific on that, where it's not just any development, it's specifically housing development that we're talking about here. So I don't know if I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that around in my brain that it is under a housing pillar and not just a something different where we're revitalizing downtown. It's just
I also want to just throw in there, another thing I hear from residents is that seems to me that they're way more open to the idea of putting apartments somewhere where there is already a little bit of that density, or like in the Westbrook area where we had a rundown shopping center, rather than plowing down acres and acres of trees and natural space that they've loved looking at. That's when I get more pushback from neighbors, when it's green space. So I'm just putting that out there. I know that maybe the word itself might be triggering, but as far as resident pushback, it seems to be more when you're talking about leveling something that they've been used to looking at as a natural space and sticking apartments there. I don't know if that's others in other words what you noticed, but that's what I see.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts?
Now, what are we looking at now?
I think it's this one still, just making sure we get it right.
What words are we looking at now?
So I think maybe a way to say it is, one option would be revitalize needed areas by infill housing developments. Does that get it?
Yeah, because that opens it up to any kind of housing development. It doesn't push the concept of dense housing development, but it leaves it open to that.
Okay.
At the same time.
All right, good input. Anything else on this pillar? All right, let's move on. This one is provide exceptional city services and infrastructure. And this team that worked on it, they gave us a lot of detail. So emphasize code enforcement, provide a state-of-the-art stormwater system, and a couple of subpoints under that. Identify the immediate needs of replacement and expansion, and develop an actual plan of replacement. For example, by the year 2020, we have in the year 2020, we have a 20% need, et cetera, et cetera. 3, create more connectivity through sidewalks and bike path trails. Identify where it is most beneficial, and focus on doing 20% in areas with highest need and highest impact. 4, police department, fire department, public works department, parks, and city manager will maintain accreditation, raising the bar. Nurture and feed these areas, and develop better than average staff and technology in these areas. I'm wondering if maybe we need to reword that one, but that's up to y'all. And then the last one, create a potential infrastructure plan for potential businesses. So those are the pillars with some subpoints under there. Comments?
I got some serious comment on this one. This is Eric. We got a glaring hole in this slide. And I don't know, we just plain missed it, I guess. But we don't even mention the word roads. That we will maintain quality roads within the city. I mean, there has to be a bullet. I don't know how we can leave it out of there. It's a very important part of infrastructure.
Is that supposed to be the last one? Is that where that was my question related to Eric, is potential infrastructure plan. Is that where we loop in roads? Because I agree that's an important priority.
If we talk about stormwater, we covered that pretty well, and the connectivity and the public safety and all that, but we just didn't even mention roads. And it certainly is such a high priority. It's one of our highest priorities. It certainly needs to be mentioned, and that we plan on maintaining quality trafficability and circulation management for the city, or whatever the words are.
I agree with Eric, and along with that, that would also probably be a really good place to talk about our green streets idea, or the fact that we might not be building roads exactly the same as we have the past 30 years.
I agree. So when we say maintaining and expanding, because in Western Shawnee, as we talked about the other night, there's a lot of roads that need to be widened, and the green concept is a really good one.
Would you say with something like this, just adding another bullet, maintain and expanding quality roads, incorporating our green streets concept.
Sounds pretty good for a start.
Is that intended to be a sub-bullet of that last bullet or replace that last bullet?
I wouldn't make it a sub of it, I would make it either additional to it, maybe.
No, whole new bullet.
Okay, I see.
I think that last bullet was focusing more on that infrastructure plan for those lots that aren't really developable at this point. So what kind of infrastructure needs to be brought to those lots in order for development to occur? So if that is streets, that's great. But that could also potentially be water, wastewater, electric, anything like that. And I believe that's what that last bullet is implying.
Yeah, I think, I brought this up quite a bit when we were on our retreat. I brought it up over and over again. The concept of taking a look at our developable areas and do basically a topographic and geographic analysis of that to say what kind of infrastructure is going to be needed in these areas to promote that growth. And I think that's where this showed up in here. I think that's where it came from. So that's not really lumped in with roads and stuff. That's looking at developing the infrastructure to encourage the development to move into areas of Shawnee where right now, due to lack of sewers, due to lack of roads, and due to lack of other utilities, it's unfeasible at this time.
So Eric's correct. When we added that, that's exactly what we were talking about at that time, is our areas that don't have the infrastructure in place for businesses to be shovel ready. So that's what that bullet meant when we discussed it.
Yeah, a potential infrastructure plan. Okay, and it's a strategic looking out 30, 40 years into the future. You know, where are we going to be going? Where do we want to encourage development? And what kind of infrastructure is going to need to be put in place for that to happen?
So from just a grammatical structure, I feel like we need to take out that first potential. I mean, are we dedicating to creating an infrastructure plan for potential businesses? Potential infrastructure plan for potential businesses to me is, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, yes, I agree with you on that.
I agree.
It is not a potential infrastructure plan, it is just an infrastructure plan for potential businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the other one, the point that we're going to add, and again, maybe it's just me, maybe we're getting too wordy here, but I think the way you read off that sentence, it was a long sentence, and it emphasized the green roads, which citywide, I'm not sure if that's what we want to do. I feel like there could be two subpoints then, like maintain existing roads and pursue new green concepts, you know.
Okay.
When expanding roads, or I don't know what it would be, but.
I agree with that, Kurt.
Yeah, this is Nolan. And Mike and I have talked about this, and I would just challenge you all to think about again kind of where you want to be in 20 years, and kind of what is that big picture vision. So, you know, it's not, to me, again, it's not about maintaining, it's about, you know, it's like the words, you know, state-of-the-art, unique, unique solutions for infrastructure, things like that. So, you know, when we're talking about like words like Green Street or kind of specifics, try to, I guess, and Mike, feel free to jump in here, but for me, it's kind of what is that long-term 20-year vision? That's something that's kind of really where you want to be, where we are kind of, like where it talks about, you know, raising the bar, state-of-the-art, those kind of things, and kind of that, really that kind of future.
So like efficient and sustainable.
Yeah, so when we're looking at things, and it's like if we're maintaining, hopefully, we'll always be in a position to kind of take care of things and maintain it, but just kind of what's that bigger vision within these pillars for these milestones.
So Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's kind of going back to when we were council members in the recession, and our street program got way behind because that we couldn't fund it. So maybe, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but then what I'm thinking is what you're saying, that all of our streets should be a 7 or above at all times. That is what we're shooting for in the future, that we never let our streets drop to a 4.
Yeah, we're establishing a bar with this goal that we want to maintain our streets at a high level. And we're making that commitment to the citizens that our goal is to maintain quality streets here. And in that other part about the green streets, I think we could just open that up even wider and say, seek out and implement new concepts that would further the goals for quality streets and cost-effective measures or something.
No, that's good. Let's put the main bullet point added, and then those are two really good sub-bullets.
I'll put both of those as sub-points there.
Yeah, Mike, I'd like to see that last bullet there. We talked about it some, but just some wording in there. I would say create a infrastructure plan for future expansion of business.
Can I propose a language for that last bullet?
Sure.
Create undeveloped area plan recommendations to include infrastructure needs, connectivity, redevelopment opportunities, and land use potential.
That's pretty wordy, but that's what we're wanting to do.
You're saying, you'll have to email that to me, Caitlin. I like it, but is that okay with everybody else, council-wise?
Yeah, that hits the topic there.
Yeah, I like it.
It's just kind of wordy, but
Email it to me, Caitlin.
It didn't include the word businesses, but...
Oh.
See what I can do.
Okay. Yeah, and so for the one that we're adding, I think what I'm hearing you say is something like along the lines of maintain and expand roads, a quality roads system, and then bullet point one under that would be maintain existing roads at a high level, and then the second one, bullet point, would be something like incorporate new concepts that will provide efficiency and sustainability for future roads. Okay. We'll wordsmith that a little bit, but that's the idea.
Yep.
Okay.
This is Jill. Can I ask a quick question on the second and third bullet points? Just what did we mean by that 20%, 2020, a 20% need? Does that mean, I guess I'm not exactly sure what we meant by that. And then with the sidewalks and bike trails, focus on doing 20% in areas with the highest need and highest impact. It seems that we would do more than 20% in the areas with highest need and highest impact. So I can't remember exactly how we arrived at those two.
Joe, I was wondering the same thing earlier, and thanks for bringing that back up. Do we want to just, for the purpose of this particular document, do we want to be that granular in this type of a document? Or do we want to leave ourselves some latitude in throwing some percentages at this in more of a dedicated workshop environment? I'm just afraid that if we throw specific percentages down on this type of a plan that we're sort of committing ourselves either to a bar that's too high or too low or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
I do agree, yeah.
I'd like to see both those taken out. Just leave the primary bullet, leave the second part off of there on both of them.
I think that got in there just out of it, people making an example or something, which is fine.
I think it was attempt to clarify, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that starts with identify, I mean, we could say identify where it is most beneficial based on highest need and highest impact without
the 20%
specific number in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Percentages.
Well, let me ask you something, council. This line here that says develop a better than average staff and technology in these areas, that didn't really inspire me much when I saw it. I was like, that might be what, that might be what Lenexa says, but that shouldn't be what Shawnee says.
Can we just be exceptional?
That's what I was thinking.
I think it's good to just say quality, because exceptional sets a pretty high bar, but quality, develop a quality staff and technology.
Don't we want our staff to be exceptional?
I think quality implies good.
Exceptional staff. So.
No good starts here, not great.
What did you say, Lisa?
I said we know that good starts here, not great.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry.
I'm gonna change it to say develop exceptional staff and technology. Just because,
I think that implies we're gonna spend a crap load of money on that in order to make that happen, because exceptional is a high bar.
I disagree. I think that you can have exceptional staff. That would say that if you are somebody getting paid $50,000 a year, you can't be exceptional at your job. I completely disagree. I don't get paid that much, and I think I'm exceptional at my day job. I'm just saying, there's plenty of people that are exceptional. Nurses are exceptional. They might get paid low. I don't know.
I think if you think about it in an aspirational or doing a long-term vision, I think exceptional is more inspiring and attractive to the kind of employees you want to attract.
Can we say exceptional staff and innovation in these areas? I mean, technology can get expensive.
Develop exceptional staff and innovation.
Just an idea.
Can I make a comment about a totally different bullet point in this slide?
Yes, please.
So the very top bullet point emphasized code enforcement. I know that we've had quite a few conversations about how our residents will complain because the codes are not being enforced. However, over the last 6 months or so, I've received quite a few constituent complaints and concerns about what is perceived as over-enforcement of codes. They haven't even all been from my ward, but some have been. Some of these I've shared with different members of this council. All of them I've shared with Nolan. But I'm really questioning why we are putting emphasized code enforcement in a strategic visioning document. I'm not even sure that it's appropriate to be here, and I'm not even sure that I support it at this point.
Well, this is Eric chiming in. If you look at our surveys that are completed by our citizens, every time we do a survey, this is the #1 topic which people express lack of support for, the lack of satisfaction with, put it that way. It's still fairly high, but it's still one of the lowest ratings that the city's received, and it happens every single time. So obviously people are not happy with our codes enforcement, and the bottom line is... Go ahead.
Go ahead. What are we asking, and what are they really answering when they're answering that question? Are they dissatisfied with the customer service of the code enforcement people that they are seeing? Are they really dissatisfied because they feel like the codes doesn't do anything, and they're mad that their neighbor is able to leave stuff out on their porch? I'm not sure that we have enough information with this one to really respond in a way that's going to move that metric.
And right now, we basically work off a snitch program, where you snitch on your neighbor, and that's how it gets addressed. I'm not so sure it's not time to go ahead and go into some sort of programmatic system where we do our codes enforcement. It's not just based upon somebody complaining. It's based upon city identifying issues out there that need to be corrected.
The way we discussed it in the past is kind of a proactive versus reactive code enforcement program, so I don't know if those are two words that we may want to use here. That's how we discussed it with the council in the past, though.
Yeah,
and the trouble is, too, that code enforcement is a very, very broad term. So I can pretty much guarantee that your average citizen, they're talking about your codes of things that are visible from an exterior of a building, but that is such a small percentage of what code enforcement actually does. So if that's the piece that we want to focus on in this, then we just need to clarify that.
Yeah, this is Nolan. I'll kind of provide some additional detail, and we usually do kind of an annual code enforcement update, so we'll have something coming up the next few months as well to kind of get you up to speed. But as Caitlin mentioned, we do a little bit of a reactive but also proactive review for code enforcement. So when we talk about code enforcement, as Lisa mentioned, there's building codes, which is building inspections, those kind of things. There's also like what we call code enforcement of like property maintenance standards. And so if this is something that you guys want to keep in, I guess maybe flipping it a little bit in terms of, something in terms of, assisting residents and maintaining, property maintenance standards, if that's kind of from the exterior side of things, as Councilmember Jenkins mentioned, and surveys. code enforcement does rank low in terms of that satisfaction. I think there are some survey question challenges, as Councilman Larson Bonnell mentioned. The issue, and this is just my personal opinion, is that usually neither party is satisfied. I think people have an expectation that it's similar to maybe law enforcement and getting the police involved, and somebody shows up, they talk to the party, the issue's handled, and the officer drives away. We're dealing with similar situation of tall grass or something like that. Sometimes you end up taking these folks to court, and the issue then is it takes a substantial amount of time, depending on what the code enforcement issue is. So the reporting party is upset because it took time, because there's a legal process we have to follow. And then obviously the party that we're trying to get to fix their property is also upset. And so usually you rarely have kind of a win-win scenario in these situations. So yeah, I digress a little bit, but to the point is that if code enforcement is an issue, I think to Councilman Larson Bonnell, it's building codes or property maintenance standards, and then do we want to change it to code enforcement while flipping the language to property maintenance for the community?
Okay, other thoughts?
Well, I think most of their issues are emanating from maintenance of private property. I think Nolan hit that. Whether we want to change that or not is okay with me, if you want to put it that way. Emphasize quality, I don't know, property maintenance. We want our city to look good, and we want it to be a quality place to live. Or you got a bunch of shabby stuff out there that's not being maintained, and our codes enforcement falls and drops the ball, that hurts the whole city.
And we make it a little more broad, maybe, to say something to the effect of assisting citizens or having solid procedures in place, something like that, where it's like saying that we have a strong sort of support system or, policies that are there to support citizens and, and rectify new things. I don't want to say rectify, that seems a little too detailed, but something that just shows that we have a solid system in place to support citizens in those types of things. I don't know what
that's a really good point. Taking this from something that is very negative connotations, you think kind of police state and things like that, and flipping it around to being something much more supportive of the community.
This is kind of our new efforts to, to have more things available online, different, permits and stuff like that, I see all of those sort of as city services that we're just providing, those, I don't know exactly how to word it, but I'm kind of thinking a little bit of something that would sort of encompass more things than just code enforcement, but, I don't know.
I think we need to have two sub-bullets underneath that. One of the bullets needs to be specific to code enforcement as it relates to construction, building efforts and those kind of things. That's very much a different type of code enforcement and very important kind of code enforcement. And then the second bullet that speaks more to that maintenance issue that we've been talking about. I think the words emphasize code enforcement is so broad that it's impossible for that to have any meaning to anybody, which is why we're having this debate right now. I think we need to subcategorize that a little bit.
I think that's a fair point, Matt. I think that's a good idea. Put a couple bullets in there. What I'm focusing on, the more what you normally think of in terms of code enforcement, which is building permits and make sure it's done correctly and all that stuff, and the other one, maintaining quality neighborhoods.
Right. And this may be too general, but is the main milestone there have to do with keeping Shawnee looking beautiful as a city? And and one of those is code enforcement, and then one of those is, for new buildings, and then the other one is helping citizens maintain properties.
That's exactly what I was just thinking, was the word beautification.
I also don't want to lose the sight of safety as well, which is a big component of code enforcement.
Right. So let's back up just a little bit, because this is a subcategory to pillar number 3, provide exceptional city services and infrastructure. So when we're talking about city services and infrastructure, and we're talking about code enforcement, how does that apply to infrastructure and city services? Takes me back to the 2 sub-bullets. One is emphasize code enforcement as it relates to new construction, renovations, that kind of thing. And I think we're all on the same page there. And then a second bullet that speaks more to just proper upkeep and maintenance, and then more, which I think is more in line with the beautification piece that Madam Michelle just mentioned. Again, circling back around, that this particular bullet needs a couple of sub-bullets on it. Mm-hmm. And maybe even this code enforcement should appear in another one, underneath another one of these pillars, within a different context. I don't want to open that can of worms right yet, but maybe we keep that in mind.
Okay. So let me do this. Let me redo that bullet, that milestone, with a couple of those subpoints like you're talking about, Matt. I like those. It seems like everybody seems to be on the same page with that. And then we'll see how, I'll send that to Caitlin. We'll see how that looks.
Okay. Can I make another comment on something else?
Yes.
So all of these bullet points start with, I think it's a verb, except for the 4th one just says police department. I feel like it should say create exceptional police department. It feels like it's not consistent with the other bullet points.
I agree.
I would maybe flip that last bullet about the exceptional staff, make that the header, and then those other things could be sub-bullets, the innovation, exceptional staff, and then underneath that you've got the accreditations and those things.
I think that's a good suggestion.
I get kind of lost in what the nurture and feed means.
That could probably be taken out.
We're supposed to feed Nolan.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you.
Nurture and feed.
I thought we weren't supposed to feed the bears.
Oh, God.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, for some reason I just dropped off the plan.
Did you hear Nolan's last comment about flipping that one?
No, I don't think I did. This is where we're at, right here. Can you all see that screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Instead of the police department bullet, make that police department, fire department a sub-bullet, and then develop exceptional staff and innovation. I can't remember what that was. That would be kind of the main bullet of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right, I'll change that up. All right, are we ready to move on?
Well, are we going to keep the nurture and feed? Or are we going to better define that, or just get rid of it, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to get rid of it.
No, I think it's a little repetitive. I think the other topics actually encompass that, inherently are part of that.
If we make the one that's currently the 3rd sub-bullet under there, developing the staff, I feel like that, if it's the main bullet, should apply to all city staff and all departments. And then when we specify maintaining accreditation for those individuals and departments that have accreditation that, you know, can be specified. But I don't want it to look like we only want to have, you know, to only give a sort of shout out to our police department, fire department. Like, I mean,
That's a good point, Jill.
Yeah, everybody should be encompassed in that main bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And then just by maintaining accreditation for those specific entities.
Oh, those poor IT and HR people and those folks.
They get left out.
Yes, very good. Okay, I'm going to move this forward here. The next one was be the leader in maximizing and integrating natural resources. There was 4 milestones. Integrate topography into development and site design. So the idea of working with the land, such as is done in Italy and Greece. Number 2, develop regional stormwater detention. Number 3, revise design standards. And number 4, emphasize connectivity and walkability. So thoughts on those milestones as it relates to that pillar?
Were these, I have a question for Nolan and Caitlin. Were these just the examples that we came up with at the retreat, or was there more that city staff weighed in on? Because I feel like what the city's already doing is really even, I don't know, there's even more than is on this list.
Yeah, staff hasn't wordsmithed this at all. This is solely a council document, and we wanted to make sure that it remained that way. So this is what y'all came up with at the retreat.
Yeah, so we will have that more in kind of that detailed plan, but yeah, as Kevin said, this is really, we didn't want to have, I think when Mike jumped in, I think we were trying to make sure that this was still your document.
For sure.
Are there, is it okay? I mean, I'm just curious, this one feels are there other examples of things that we could add in that you know are kind of on the horizon, or is that not even a conversation for right now?
I would say that would really fit more under the plan of the staff, the execution plan, because you're going to get more granular there. These are just saying, what do we mean by being a leader in maximizing, integrating natural resources? You're trying to give them direction and then let them do.
And I think that first bullet there where we talk about integrating topography into development and site design, I think that's, given Shawnee's geography, that right there is how we as a community are going to differentiate ourselves from some of the surrounding areas. And that's just strikes me as a linchpin to all of this particular pillar. It's how we develop, it's what we're going to do to improve our stormwater system. The Green Streets things that we talked about earlier, that boy, it's just, it's the pivot point of the whole thing.
Is there more we could put into the develop around stormwater? Because I think we're doing a lot more than just detention. I don't know if a few more words are needed, but even with Tuesday's conversation about our Green Streets concept of stormwater, I know that's a big focus for us, and detention doesn't quite feel like the only word that would need to be there.
That's a good point.
I think just to develop regional stormwater management.
Yeah, that sounds broader, and it feels like it encompasses everything.
Yeah, management. Yeah, let's get rid of detention and put management in there. Okay.
So common terms are also things like management and best practices.
I like the best practices.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I did want to also say, Matt, your point about the linchpin, I think integrating topography into the development is a thing that sets us apart and makes us have a real opportunity where we wouldn't have that same opportunity in many of the other cities around, because they just don't have the same beauty that we have.
So I agree with you on that, but I hope the final document does not have these examples. Like, it's weird to in a Shawnee document to say we want to work with the land like Italy and Greece do.
We'll take those out.
Okay.
I think those were in there as examples.
I understand for our conversation at the retreat.
Yeah, and that was kind of like in the previous slide when we had 20%.
Right.
That was,
Yeah, for sure. Good point, Kurt.
I'm looking at number 3, and wondering if we could potentially add a little more to that one. Maybe revise design standards to be more efficient and innovative, which I think efficiency includes both the cost-saving measures that can come with being efficient and the potential positive environmental effects that can come with being efficient, and then innovative, which I feel like, is exactly what our staff did with coming to us with this Green Streets concept is, here's a way that we can, be smart, be innovative, save money, be efficient. And that's so, I don't know, it seems a little bland with just revised design standards.
I agree.
So I wonder if it should even be broader than that, and a milestone of this would be update the comp plan.
I agree with that, and we just got finished talking about code enforcement, and if we're going to be revising design standards and dragging ourselves into the 21st century, we might as well leverage this effort and update our code compliance standards, because we're going to be enforcing codes that were put together in 1962. I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but I think it's worth revisiting our code book as we work through these design revisions.
Are we also talking about revisiting the master land use plan?
Yeah, that's part of the comp plan.
Oh, that's what you're speaking to, yeah. Let's include that.
Update master comp plan?
Yeah.
Is that already going on?
It will. The day after this process is finalized, we are hoping to issue an RFQ for a comp plan update.
Okay.
But you put it in there as a goal, and then we can check it off really quick, guys.
Yeah, that becomes some low-hanging fruit.
That's right.
Okay, very good.
I do think, though, if we put that in there, not just update it, but update it, again, that seems a little dry. Like, I'm not saying we have to get really flowery with our words, but update it, maybe adding with innovation and efficiency in mind, or something like that. Like, what is the purpose of us updating it? Not just to update it, but we want to update it with what in mind. Like, what's our goal of doing that?
Yeah, it might be helpful to give direction to the consultant that's going to help us update our comp plan. I think maybe those buzzwords or at least directional words like those may be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's right, because it goes back to Nolan talking about think 20 years out. That you're wanting to say, hey, this is going to serve us, for the future, and we want to not think about just being where we need to be now, but where do we want to be? So, sort of declaring yourself and signaling that's the kind of city we want to become, I think is a good. So I'll add those things. All right, anything else on this one?
Right. My only concern there would be that we tend to go back to the wording of, I think it's best and highest use. I don't necessarily think that's the goal as we build out the entire city. I mean, it depends on the area. Obviously, when you look at any area, you're looking for best use. But if you're just going to fill out the rest of it without us discussing what that wording is, that's just one comment I would have.
So do you like it? I think was suggested update master comp plan with innovation and efficiency in mind. Does that seem right? Okay.
Good.
All right. I see a hand up. I don't know who Nolan Sunderman is. Is it Nolan or is it Eric?
Must be Eric or someone else. I don't. It's not me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move us on. Last one. This one is create an environment where businesses thrive. 3 milestones. build preemptive utility infrastructure, identify areas that would be attractive to businesses and make sure connectivity and walkability are considered, and integrate Parks and Rec into business park concept. So what are your thoughts on this one?
One of the things that I feel like is missing is the great work that we already do with our collaborations with the Shawnee Chamber. This feels like we're not really talking about creating an environment where businesses thrive. We're just talking about getting businesses here. And then once they're here, making sure that there's parks connected to them. But I think that there's a lot more that we need to be considering to make our businesses thrive. Like, I think right now is a perfect example. How are we able to support our businesses that are going through really tough times right now? How are we able to attract businesses that we might not otherwise be able to attract without some kind of inducement? And it might not be a financial inducement. I'm not suggesting that. But I think this needs to be a little bit broader.
I agree.
Good word. Well, how would you maybe say it, Lisa?
I think to simplify, you could kind of put it into two different categories. One is how do we attract businesses, and then the other one is how do we support businesses that are already here? Because that's what you need to do to be able to have your businesses thrive.
So really two different bullet points.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is some good in that because, you know, your chamber is very active. They were very participative in the Imagineering sessions. And this is a significant document in that you want to communicate. That's important to us to support our existing businesses. So
I have a question here for you all. Again, me being newer. Build preemptive utility infrastructure. That suggests to me that, so I guess maybe it's something for us to talk about in the future, but to me that suggests that we are committing to preemptively building out some of these areas and making them shovel ready, which, as we know, we talked about the other night. For example, Lenexa has spent a lot of money to do, and it's worked for them. So, not necessarily opposed to that, but the alternative view, and it seems what we've done more of, again, I'm new, but has encouraged the developer to go in and spend the money. And then, if anything, we give them a tax incentive on the back end of it. I just wonder if build preemptive utility infrastructure is signaling that we are committing as a council to do that, or if we want to talk about that a little bit more. Does that make sense?
I wanted to bring up the same thing Kurt just said about the preemptive. First of all, the word seems weird. I would almost say proactive, but also a little bit of a concern of how far are we taking that, because that is a big initial expense up front to just keep building out. And it does seem in direct opposition to what we just discussed Tuesday about Green Streets, which is building what you need now. And it just seemed like a more, smart, responsible financial way to do it. So that, I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, the truth is, as a council, my guess is we probably have different philosophical views on it, maybe. I haven't thought about mine a whole lot, but...
I've thought about mine, Kurt. I tell you what, our constituents are very vocal about using taxpayers' to support a business. And when you say build preemptive utility infrastructure, you are literally spending taxpayers' money to help a business. I would much rather let them take responsibility for creating that infrastructure and then give them a tax break on the back end from the taxes they are raising, not the taxes that the rest of the people are paying.
I agree.
So I would strike that and maybe say something like encourage businesses to to build out utility infrastructure, give incentives to businesses to expand utility infrastructure. But I don't think we want to commit, and Kurt, I think this is what your point is, we don't want to commit as a city to using taxpayer money to build utility infrastructure.
This is Nolan. I think one of the, just, it depends on how short or long you want to make it. You could say encourage partnerships to construct utility infrastructure for the business community, depending on the utility and potential end users. Sometimes the utilities themselves will actually come to the table to help do that. So you have the city, developer, potential utility, depending on if they will come together. So you could use the word partnership in that. Also, I mean, it depends, kind of back to kind of that bigger picture. Steve sent me a note about becoming the premier destination in the Kansas City Metro with infrastructure assistance and understanding of their long-term needs. So kind of
like your idea of partnership. We're going to foster.
Yep. Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Yep. I like your choice of words, Nolan. Partnership, foster partnerships for public-private ventures to expand our utility infrastructure, something like that.
I like that a lot better, yeah. And that doesn't really commit to tax incentives even, but it does the intent that we want to attract businesses and partner with them.
Yeah. You could also even generalize it a little bit more and say something like promote partnerships to make sites ready for development, tying back into that concept we were talking about earlier with those site area development plans.
I like it.
Just to clarify, wasn't this a bullet point on one of our earlier slides too?
Very similar.
Yeah, and I think that's where it belonged, is back where we had it. The other one where it's more of an analysis and a creating an understanding of where those areas are that would be attractive for future development, and what would the requirements actually be to get that development into there, and trying to give arm the city council with information that would help them in coming to these partnerships with the business. So we'd be clear on what we're faced with before we just go into it willy-nilly and not really understanding what we're getting into. So that was strong on the emphasis, and I think there's a bullet completely missing on here, and the one I would like to see is to promote that business-friendly environment. And we do that on our staff all the time. I get a lot of comments back that it's easy to work with the staff here at Shawnee. They really bend over backwards to help developers get through the process and all that kind of stuff. And I think that should be something along those lines that integrates that into this pillar would be a good bullet.
Okay.
So I think this is all a really good discussion that we're having, and I agree with everything that really everyone has said, but I do want us to take a step back and think philosophically about what we're saying. And I think that we really have two approaches that we can take as a city. We can either have land that is ready and then let businesses build and pretty much not give any incentive to the business because we made that land shovel ready. Or we can say we would rather work with incentives, and we know that this is expensive. We know that you're not going to be the sole beneficiary of these infrastructure improvements that you're made, so it makes sense to us to do tax incentives. What I'm concerned about is we need to kind of commit to that. If we want to go the tax incentive route, then we need to make sure that our city and our council is really all on the same page and supportive of that, because there's nothing worse than a business wanting to do business in Shawnee, thinking that they're going to come in and get some help doing the infrastructure stuff, and then all of a sudden having the council turn around and say, well, that's a tax incentive. We don't want to do tax incentives. So that's just some food for thought.
And Lisa, I agree with your comment there. Developers spend a considerable amount of money trying to find a place to drop a development, get a business going, so on and so forth. They need to have a crystal clear vision of where Shawnee stands as a community when it comes to development. And if we collectively decide we don't want to incent anybody for any reason because of whatever, then let's put it out there. if on the other hand, we decide that we're gonna allow an incentive because it's good for the community for these reasons or those reasons, then we need to put that out there. But we can't string them along, hook them, bring them in, and then say, oh, right, by the way, you know, we don't want to do this for that reason. It's just not right. It's just all.
Well, so if I could respond, I don't disagree with you. I think we do need to be crystal clear, but I don't think you can make a blanket statement in a document like this that we commit as a group, because it depends. Everything depends. It depends on the project. It depends on the amount of the incentive being asked for. It depends on the length. Every project is different in terms of the value that it will bring and how much incentive is appropriate to give for the value they're going to bring to the community. So I just personally wouldn't be willing to just sign on to, we commit to it as a group and we're going to put it out here on a document, because again, I think every project's different.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear enough. I wasn't implying that we should commit in the document that we're going to be doing incentives. That was more for us internally as we're thinking about what we're actually putting in this document. And what we are trying to put in this document is suggesting that the city is willing to partner with the businesses. And the implication behind that is that there could be some sort of incentive. And so I just wanted us to be thinking about what does that really mean.
So let me tie Lisa's comments and Kurt's comments together, because they both make sense. And Kurt, you're right, there's no way we can put all the criteria in this document. However, I think as part of this document, what we ought to commit to is collectively is that we develop some kind of a roadmap or an equation or something that says, if you bring us development, here's some thresholds for you. Here's what we're going to do to incent you if you can meet this threshold or that threshold or this threshold. Some form of metrics that provides them an advanced look at what we're going to support if they structure a development around certain criteria. And I know this. We're talking grand, vague forms right now, but Kurt, I think that's what you really want to say, is every development is going to stand on its own. I agree with that. But we got to give them a recipe book. We can't just say, bring us your development, spend $500,000, and then we're going to decide at the back end of your efforts and investments, we're going to decide at that moment whether we're going to approve it or not. We need to give them some metrics, we need to give them some equations, something that they can use as their criteria to develop their project with. Otherwise, this is going to be an endless cycle and go on forever, and it's just ugly.
Matt, I like what you just said about creating those criteria or that recipe book concept, because we could allude to that in here, and then that could change council to council. So, the specifics wouldn't be in this overall guiding document, but what those criteria are, that's set by this council could be different 2 or 4 or 6 years down the road if it doesn't this document.
Become a living document, so to speak.
So the metric would be to create the document, and then we can build into it that it needs to be reviewed every 2 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Just that it exists.
Yeah, well, I've often thought about this, and I think I've even mentioned a couple times, Matt, that I would like to see something like a decision tree sort of concept.
Right.
I like that idea.
You work your way through the decision tree, and here's the factors that kind of mix it. This is a positive. It goes this way. If you get to this point, then you can go on to here. There's a process there to kind of guide them through it. I don't think anything we come up with will be 100% ironclad, because there's always that project like, holy crap, it doesn't meet any of our criteria, but holy mackerel, we'd love to have this in Shawnee anyway, regardless. So we're willing to bend over backwards to get this particular type of development here, because it's like the only one in Kansas or something. You know, there's always going to be that exception. But I think we could certainly, with some sort of decision tree model, provide a great amount of guidance and information to a prospective developer to at least get them started.
Absolutely.
This is Nolan. We do have our policy statements, and we can review those with you all and see if there's tweaks or things that we need to make. We do have, you know, like in some of those IRB discussions and things, kind of depending on the level of investment, depending on the type of business, depending on a couple of other factors, kind of determines whether it's the seed amount or percentage of the, you know, payroll and workforce, what their next code is, some of those things. So, but we can look at those and maybe bring back some potential revisions on something in terms of that.
Mm-hmm. Nolan, let's start with that. That's the perfect place to start with this. It sounds like it's halfway built out, or maybe 80% built out. I don't know, but it would be good for everybody on council to reacquaint with that, and then maybe use that to build out that decision matrix that Eric was talking about.
Yeah, that sounds good. That was gonna be my question is, why haven't we ever done this, and what do other cities do? And it sounds like 80% of it is built out.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll take we'll take this bullet point out. We'll go with Nolan's wordings there for the other one, and Nolan, if you'll send that to me.
Yeah.
And then we'll add the one about support existing businesses, and then another one to attempt to attract new businesses.
Hey, Mike, this is Nolan. Sorry to keep coming back to this, but I mean, I guess when you guys think about what that business community looks like, what the business environment looks like in 20 years, you know, what is that vision? What does that look like? I think there was some discussion around the downtown, and it's not in there obviously, but I can't remember why. So I didn't know if there was a discussion about having a downtown board of, you know, creating and having a thriving and unique downtown, something that we want to see downtown, a board in terms of, you know, I think Councilmember Jenkins mentioned, you know, something that's unique in the entire country, a unique destination attraction in Shawnee that's unique to the metro, or unique, you know, in the entire country. It's just, you know, kind of, you know, those moonshot ideas or those kind of bigger pictures. Is there things like that are on your mind, whether it's downtown related, whether it's just, you know, kind of that unique attraction to bring families together, or unique metro attraction, or unique national attraction that we can kind of lock our eyes on?
Yep. No, I'm always game for a moonshot.
Well, and I love the idea of incorporating the downtown part, some of those words you were saying, Nolan, because it's certainly been a focus for us for quite a while, and I anticipate if we're investing that much into Neiman that we're certainly going to want a thriving downtown in 20 years. So that feels like a missing bullet for sure.
I think there was something about downtown on the first line. Yeah, make downtown an interactive destination, but you could certainly add, you know, back to this something about making it a unique attraction, attracting businesses that will make Shawnee Downtown a unique destination for, you know, Kansas or for the metro area.
Mike, would it be an odd thing to put a bullet in here that ties pillar number 5 back to pillar number 1 specifically as it relates to that downtown development and this moonshot concept? I mean, no, to me, a really successful plan. If all 5 of our pillars somehow weave themselves together, it's just going to be a stronger foundation and a stronger plan, and much more meaningful all the way around. I understand the concept of separate pillars. I get that.
No, I think that's entirely feasible, and, you know, the downtown has a lot of potential for being that unique attraction. If you're not, maybe not now, maybe not 24 months from now, but 20 years from now, which is really what you're thinking about, it could be the unique attraction, particularly if you sort of put yourself out there under this pillar, that that's one of the things you want to do, is be attracting businesses that will contribute to making downtown the unique destination of the Kansas City metro area.
Right. And if you're knocking one thing off we're trying to get two birds with one stone is really what we're doing here.
Sure, yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
If all of these pillars at some level share a common root structure, it just makes it all the more sustainable and all the more economically feasible too. So.
Mm-hmm.
So in relation to these moonshot ideas, I agree downtown needs to be a priority focus. I know Eric has mentioned several times, and I'm in agreement with him. There's a couple other things that we'd really like to see as moonshot. One of the things that we discussed previously was creating basically a sports corridor, encouraging outdoor sports in Shawnee. Another one was, oh shoot, I just lost it. We talked about Shawnee Town, talked about sports corridor, talked about...
I'm thinking about more breweries.
It's given that time of day, man. I know what you're thinking.
Eric, what am I missing?
Are you thinking about, like, didn't we talk about how there's a pretty good, like, cycling community and outdoors community, and we've got Shawnee Mission Park here, and kind of pulling in that outdoorsy theme?
It's partly that, but it is more about, like, actually developing outdoor fields, like soccer fields, like you see in Overland Park and stuff like that, and really taking advantage of what we have going on down Johnson Drive, where the sports fields are there, and capitalizing on that, like really becoming a destination city for those things.
Just like
Can I comment that, please? This is Caitlin. So, as part of this project as well, we're doing our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Barbara is on the call, so she may be able to chime in, but they're in conjunction with the kind of pillars that you all establish here. They're creating those goals directly related to Parks and Recreation, so I am 100% sure, Lisa, that your comments are being considered there as well. Not that we can't duplicate them at all, but specifically to Parks and Recreation type activities and conversations, they're going to have a very extensive master plan that kind of builds upon our pillars and milestones here.
But we're talking about private developments. I'm not talking about things that the city would necessarily pay for. So, for instance, we have the ice rink that's there, and that is awesome, and that is part of this whole sports theme. But, you know, actually having private sports development. And is Eric off the call now?
No, I'm right here listening, but it's hard to get in, though, so I'm just going to wait till somebody gets quiet.
What am I missing, Eric? Please.
Well, no, I don't think you're missing anything, because the two that I brought up at the retreat, one of them was the sports thing, making it kind of a sports mecca, because I was trying to look at Shawnee like we're up at 100,000 feet looking down, and one of the things that we have that are already in place that are a pretty positive thing that we could grow and make something special out of. And I thought one of them was the fact we got a good start on sports facilities, and we have a really good start with our museum there in 1929. So that was the other one, and you did mention it. Because if that thing really turned into kind of a destination spot for Kansas City, that would be kind of cool. And I think there's a lot that can be done as this thing expands. I see absolutely no reason why we couldn't be having like roaring 20s parties out there once a year, a big gala, and I mean just have all kinds of neat stuff we could build around that old Shawnee town. So yeah, I thought instead of trying to invent something from scratch, that was the idea, that we have a couple things here that are already more than just a nugget that we could build on and make into something even bigger and better.
Eric, would that include a local sarsaparilla?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have to have a soda shop and a drugstore somewhere along the way. where you can go in and get your sarsaparilla and you can still get the Coke syrup, you ever remember that stuff? You actually get the Coke syrup.
Oh, yeah.
That used to be good for settling your stomach or whatever, or you can go in there and get the Coke syrup. Whatever, but I mean, you get the gist. The gist was kind of have some kind of period thing that makes it pretty interesting, and maybe even a couple times a year have Friends of Shawnee dress up in period costumes and things and make it kind of a living a museum for a 3-day period or something like that. And there's all kinds of ideas you could do with that, but make it a destination.
Can I add something on totally different or discussion? If we're talking about creating an environment where businesses thrive, I feel like one of the things that we need to do is bring more companies here with high-paying jobs, long-term. If we're looking 20 years out, one of the things, and it's my understanding, is we don't have enough office space for any major companies. And as an aspiration, I would love to see an aspirational goal of creating a corporate business park or something like that. Ideally out in, west of
Florida. Great idea, Kurt. I think that should be a bullet on here. Absolutely.
And that would put forward the idea that moving forward, we'd like to attract corporate business, not just local business.
So are you envisioning something like Perimeter Park?
It sounds like he's more interested in something like, what's that place out there? Corporate
Woods.
But maybe on a smaller scale, but a corporate woods kind of concept with lots of offices and businesses located there that would bring people to Shawnee, substantial numbers.
So how do you do that without having tall buildings?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you think about corporate woods and you think about office space, especially Class A office space, you're looking at least 4-story buildings. And I'm trying to think where we can put that in Shawnee where people are not going to be upset on a grand scale. The location where they're building right now, west of 43rd, probably would have been really good, but they're using that for something else often right now. So do we even have, space to consider something like that?
Well, now, Lisa, you're going back to Mike's concept where I want to go in and analyze what we've got left in Shawnee so we know where we got the stuff and maybe whether these ideas make sense or don't make sense. I mean, we're doing it without a lot of information, and that's where I'd like to get that analysis done.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I don't think they have to be 4 stories. I just think it would be a good aspiration for us. If we had a major company today say they wanted to move here, we wouldn't be able to house them, I don't think.
Actually, Kurt, I'm looking at the third bullet here. I'm listening to you, and I looked at the third bullet again, and it says integrate Parks and Rec into business park concept.
Yeah.
We're talking about an office park.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of have that covered. Maybe we need to wordsmith that third bullet just a bit more.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do agree we need a big advocate of bringing more businesses to Shawnee. How do we do that?
I don't know how we do that.
And this is Nolan. Ann's on our steering committee, and so we can kind of take some of these comments and direction and see if we can kind of word. So this will be coming back to you a few more times. So, but we can kind of take some of these comments and kind of build a few things that you guys can further click around and tweak a little bit. So.
Okay. Good.
Great.
I really like what I'm hearing, from you guys, because you're kind of beginning to talk moonshot kind of things. You talked about using sports to become a sports destination. You talked about making downtown a unique destination for, say the Kansas City metro area. And you've talked about now, okay, we want to have a business park that draws in corporate relocation. And those are really, over a 20-year period, those are game-changer kind of things. And, it'll get tweaked, and you won't be able to do everything you plan, but you'll exactly do 0% of what you don't plan. So I think that's some really good thoughts on that, especially thinking of when you're mentioning downtown, and, we'll see how it looks, but something that has the idea of attempting to draw in businesses that will help make downtown a unique destination. That's really the key there. So, that's excellent work. What I'll do from here is, get with Caitlin and Nolan and make the adjustments to the document that we've heard you suggest today. And I think the next meeting is planned, if I'm thinking right here, this here, is for Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 2 to 3, steering committee review. And so y'all will be there for that as well.
The council won't be there, only the
Council won't be there, just
the steering committee.
Okay, so we'll make sure they see the changes. And then the next meeting is Friday, a week from tomorrow, which will open to the public. So we'll have to figure out exactly how we'll present it. We'll allow for some discussion of it. And, so you guys can get some reflection on it. And then we'll meet again virtually so that you can see, okay, here's kind of the change based on what steering committee said, based on what you've said, and any significant changes from the community. I don't really want to let the community get into wordsmithing anything, but we want them to be able to say, okay, we've seen this, and this is in alignment with what those Imagineering sessions said to begin with. So that's kind of the plan for that. Thoughts or comments on this?
None here, Mike.
Sounds good, thank you.
All this progression. I think on the balance, the council's pretty united on this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you guys have done, this has been great dialogue, and this is really I know it's been really unique, and I know y'all are under some kinds of pressures dealing with the pandemic, and my heart goes out to everybody in local government, whether you're an elected official or an employee. This is really hard times, but I really appreciate how you've engaged today and given us great input, and we'll make our alterations and keep moving forward and be able to draw this to a close pretty quick.
Can I squeeze a word in here?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
You're muted, Eric.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here hallucinating while I'm watching all this going on and stuff. But just a thought came to me when we start trying to talk about making downtown a destination place. And this may just sound totally crazy, but right next to McLean's where we got that shopping center that nobody likes, if that sucker just happened to disappear, and we put an incredible jumbotron right there, and that would carry any big event. So you could have gatherings, KCPL district kind of gatherings out there in downtown Shawnee, where people could meet and relate and work together and enjoy times together. And we talked about changing our, you can carry adult beverages around in downtown, and have something like that. Boy, that'd be a draw. I mean, you imagine Final Four, where you got 20,000 Shawnee residents wanting to come down there and party together to watch the jumbotron. Of course, we might have some of our bars and restaurants not happy with that. I don't know, but just a crazy thought to throw out there. I mean, you want to bring people together. It just kind of reminds me, because my next door neighbor got one of those projectors and projected the World Series one year. Girls were in the World Series on his garage, and we had almost everybody in the homeowners association out there in his driveway drinking beer and cooking brats and having a great time. And it's so we just talk about expanding that to a much larger scale, I guess. But just a thought. I want to throw it out there while we had some people.
That's great.
Yeah, Eric, hold on to that. Hold on to that idea, brother. Don't let go of it.
Yep.
All right, Nolan, anything you want to add then?
Yeah, just a couple of things, and I apologize, I'm searching my email. So just following that Imagineering session, then we're going to come back, I believe, with a joint Parks and Rec meeting and city council, so we'll go over the Parks and Rec master plan with Barbara, and then Mike will go over kind of the final version of this, following the steering committee review, then the public kind of Imagineering session and the public feedback, and then it will come back to you for comments before we then work to adopt it and approve it. Again, just thank you guys for the time, and appreciate you guys being willing to join us via Zoom, and thanks to Mike and SGR for virtually hosting. Appreciate that. So with that, I'll turn over to the mayor for any comments, or Mike for any comments. So.
I'll turn it to you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Sorry, I had it picking up on my phone for some reason. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time. I think this has been awesome. I think it's been some awesome collaboration, and I'm just really excited about where we're going in the future. So I just want to thank everybody.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
All right. Thank you.